All right, go ahead and roll for perception.
I got a 13.
Hey, that's pretty good. With that, you can tell there's some fantasy situations going on. You hear some adult language, and with that, you can tell this podcast probably isn't for kids.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from lavish lords to languorous long rests. And today, we're breaking down the Bard.
Prepare yourselves. I cast Fireball. The Dungeoncast.
All right, Brian.
All right, Will.
The Bard. It's a fun class. You have a little experience with the Bard. You have a Bard in your game, right?
I handle a Bard, so to speak.
You do. What do you think about the Bard?
Fucking, this particular Bard is like very chaotic.
Yeah. I think Bards
Unpredictable.
do lend themselves to tend to be like on the chaotic side of things.
It's a fucking laugh, though.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I think when I think those are some of our biggest laughs is like the shit the Bard does.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jake does a great job, and the Bard is a very entertaining class, as it should be.
Yeah.
Since the Bard is an entertainer. How would you rate the Bard's effectiveness in 5e?
As a DM, I was the most surprised by the stuff the Bard could do.
Mm-hmm.
What's that spell where they make the enemy like run away?
It's Dissonant Whispers.
Dissonant Whispers.
Yeah,
Dissonant Whispers comes out and it does like psychic damage and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That one threw me for a fucking loop, and it has changed the way I build combats around you guys.
Okay. Now that's saying something, because it's pretty widely known at this point that the 5th edition Bard is very effective. It's a very good class. It's a lot of fun, and it's capable of a lot, and it's very effective. That's the first time that's ever happened. The Bard has been garbage all the way up until 4th edition. And although the Bard is effective in 4th edition, 4th edition being what it is, it's hard to rate effectiveness of classes since everything's so well balanced and so mechanical and so tactical. But like 5th edition, the Bard is notably really good. And historically, from edition to edition, the Bard was almost a throwaway class. It was almost an unplayable class in, I think, 3rd edition.
Yeah, like a joke, right?
Like, like a joke. Like it's like, oh shit, we got a Bard, so we're gonna die.
Here's the Bard.
Yeah, the Bard's gonna die.
They're singing instead of doing shit.
Let's talk about Bardic origins. We're gonna talk about the origins of the class, because like for me, the Bard is a weird concept. Even though I like it, yet the Bard was. It goes all the way back to 1st edition.
Okay.
Which doesn't have all the classes that we know now, like the Warlock and Sorcerer came out later. I just find it weird that the Bard was there since the beginning. But the Bard is based off old school, like I say old school, ancient Celtic Feelies and Norse Skalds. They're kind of traveling speakers and poets, lore and storytellers.
Yes.
And that's what the concept of the Bard is based off of.
Like a cleric would spread the word of God, a Bard spreads the word of society.
Yeah.
They're like the word of pop culture, basically.
Kinda, yeah. That's a really good, I like that. Okay, so let's talk about what a Bard is in D&D though, because it's like, okay, that's where it loses its.
Because now I'm doing it, but it's also producing magic.
Yeah, they're fucking wizards, basically. Okay, so Bards,
casters.
Bards are basically what they're known as are they're musicians that use the power of words and music to invoke arcane magic. Mm-hmm. Which
It's fucking rad.
It's really cool. And as a musician, I think it's fucking dope as fuck. I wish I could do that.
Because I feel like there's magic going on when there's music sometimes, but not really. It's just my emotions.
Right. And I think that's a big part of like where the idea is accepted, because music does feel almost magical in its own way, because it invokes these emotions and these feelings. Mm-hmm. It can inspire, which is what Bards do. They're huge on their inspiration. But let's talk about an actual power source. Like, why is it that at what point does the really sick lead guitarist of a band become a bard?
Right. Okay.
So there's the main theory, I guess, or the main bit of lore about it is that in some lore, it is said that the gods sang and spoke the world into existence in D&D.
Right.
And like there are inherent echoes of these words and songs of power throughout all existence, and the bards are incredibly talented musicians that through study and skill and practice begin to be able to tap into these divine energies and cast spells. So originally the bard was almost a divine caster. And we'll talk about that because basically was. But now it's just considered arcane, like almost like you could consider it part of the weave of arcane magic.
Yeah, so they're tapping essentially some reverberal energy, like some leftover stuff just bouncing around.
And for some reason that energy is inherently tied to words and music. So let's talk about the first edition bard.
Okay.
Because we've talked about other classes from first edition, and the bard is not like any of those classes.
This bard is Dan from Street Fighter.
What?
Dan really sucks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So for second and third edition, the bard straight up sucked. For first edition, it's a weird situation.
So not Dan yet.
I can't speak to that, whether it's Dan or not.
Okay.
And now that you say that, I know who Dan is. He's like the garbage Ryu, right?
Yeah, he like found the scrolls of like the Street Fighter, like the Ryu's like master hat or something, and read them. Was like, oh, cool. I'm gonna put on like this like these clothes this guy wears and like go out and fight now.
Yeah.
With like no real instruction.
Oh, okay.
But he had like some talent, so he can do stuff.
He just
I don't
can
know.
inherently kind of fight.
Yeah, he just like he's really garbage. He has really garbage like
hitboxes. His
hitboxes
suck,
and mechanics
right?
are really terrible. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's get back to the bard. Okay, so we've talked about how in first edition, especially, and in second edition, there were like role playing restrictions, like. You couldn't be...
We kind of touched on that with the Paladin, huh?
Yeah, the Paladin, and we didn't talk about it too much with the Rogue, but it existed for the Rogue too, where the Rogue had to be chaotic.
Right.
Only the Rogue could be the one stealthing around. The Paladin had to be lawful good and had to obey all these oaths.
Your alignment was tied to what you picked as like a racer class.
Yes, and on top of that, we also... I think we did talk about like some classes or some races and classes were inherently tied together. Like to be... I think to be a cleric, you couldn't be an elf. Like elves can't be clerics. That was the thing.
Okay.
With the bard, it's like that dialed to 100. So here's the thing. Okay, to be a bard, you had to meet all these ridiculous stipulations, and you couldn't start out as a bard. That's impossible. You have to do all these other things, and I think the earliest you could possibly hop into bard was like level 9. Okay. So first off, you have to be human or half elf. You couldn't be anything else.
Okay.
I already hate this. I'm just letting you know that. Number two, you had to have these outrageous fucking stats, which means you had to roll well because the point buy didn't exist, and even if it did, like these stats are so like I think the lowest was like a 13 in like wisdom or some shit. Like you had to have like 15s and 16s and like like across the board. So you had to have all that. After that, you had to start as a fighter for 5 levels. You had to be a fighter.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and then you had to be a thief for 5 more levels.
So you're not actually a bard till level 10, is what you're telling me.
No, because kinda. At that point, you jump into the cleric druid subclass.
Okay.
And now you're considered a bard in training. And at some point in the role play after that, you become a bard. It's dumb.
Fuck.
It's fucking dumb.
So you're not just you can't just be a bard?
No, you can't just be a bard in like why?
It's like, okay, I'm going to roll my stats before I do anything else. I'm just going to roll stats for something invisible.
Yeah.
Fuck, I rolled great. I can finally be a bard.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I rolled great. Well, like, I might as well try and be a bard. Like, when is this going to happen again?
Exactly.
And
like, and who knows what, like, how deep in the campaign you're going to get.
Yeah,
like,
seriously. Like, we're talking about a minimum of 11 levels in. Anyways, like, and also it doesn't make sense to me. The thief part, kinda. It's like, because bards are roguish and they're definitely skill monkeys.
Okay, yeah.
And the rogue
they get expertise and stuff.
Exactly. It's exactly it. And rogues are skill monkeys and rogues are roguish because of rogues. But like fighter, 5 levels of fighter, and why druid? Like what? Like
from the magics? I don't know. That's a really
okay. The cleric part I get if we're going with the whole divine origin of the bard.
Sure.
But why specifically druid?
Maybe
like
they thought like
nature?
the sound is natural.
I suppose. Stupid.
I don't fucking know.
All right. So yeah, that was the first edition bard.
Interesting.
Not a big fan.
Yeah.
But the
sounds hard.
Yeah. But the nowadays bard is more. Well, it's like we described in the beginning, where it's a musician who's tapped into these divine powers, and there are a few things that define the bard. One of the things is the bard is a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. Like truly, jack of all trades, master of none. You're going to be really good at a lot of things, but every other character is going to be better at one of those things.
Yeah, skill on the skill tree. I mean, like musically, like that's a role play thing. Like you are the best musician in the party unless there's another bard, and you can hash it out from there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. And the way this is like
fucking fiddle off or whatever.
With what?
Have a fiddle off.
I like that. Yeah, a loot off.
A loot off.
So as a bard, you're going to get to choose 3 skills from the entire list, and that's a thing with the bard is like you don't have a class list of skills. You just get the whole list of skills, and you get to choose 3.
Right.
And then later on, depending on like what I think you get more. Plus, you get expertise just like the rogue. So
Jake
you
was telling me you get expertise twice. Is that something?
It's not that you get it twice. It's that you get expertise and then it goes up. I suppose you could get expertise twice if you multi-class rogue. I don't think you get it twice.
What was he telling me? He was telling me
you get expertise, and then I know that as you level up, you get add-ons to it.
That must be, maybe he was like, it's like I get expertise, and I misunderstood him.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, let's talk about okay. So skill monkeys, they get the expertise, they get these extra skills. Let's talk a little bit about and I think this is important. There is a tech, like the actual definition in the player's handbook of what a bard is, and there was a sentence I picked out because this is where they say it. A bard is a magic user that uses their artistic talents to induce magical effects.
Cool.
I think this is important because I've seen a lot of really fucking cool ideas behind a bard. Like, okay, so common bard things that you'll see. There'll be a musician or a singer. I've seen war chanter, where they're like they chant into the battle. Usually that's going to be like the college College of Valor bard who likes to get into the fray.
Yeah, okay. Or like there would be like the front drummer or whatever. Like
there's
like
that.
Civil War or whatever.
Sometimes there'll be a lore master telling tales of epicness as they're fucking slicing the throats of goblins.
Sometimes I picture a Greek philosopher like Socrates or something
that's cool.
Like proclaims things of nature or mind or whatever.
I like that. Have you ever played Final Fantasy Tactics?
No.
Okay, well in Final Fantasy Tactics there is a job class called the mediator, and he has a oral skill in which he like inspires his allies or demoralizes foes using philosophical arguments and shit. Yeah. That's what that reminds me of, which is cool. That'd be a dope ass bard. That'd be really cool. Another common thing, just storyteller, comedian. If you can be funny, like comedians are performers, and you'll see that sometimes, like almost like a jester.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, so I've seen that before, and I think these are common enough to be called commonplace, but I've also seen some really unique ideas. The main one that comes to my mind is I played in a game once with this gentleman who was really creative with his character concepts, and he wanted to play a bard, except for he had a different concept for it. Rather than his performance art being music, he wanted to be what he called an ink mage, where he had like a giant paintbrush as his wand, and he would paint in the air.
Hell yeah.
The scenes would come to life and then be the spell.
Okami and shit.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, that is really fucking cool.
Yes.
And he did it, and it was like, it was a lot of fun. It was
that sounds really cool.
Yeah, and like I'm like, this is the shit I'm talking about. This is D&D right here. We're taking something and we're making it our own, and it's fucking awesome.
Well, could you stay right there while I paint your death in the air?
Yeah, exactly. and yeah, it was really cool, and like I highly recommend using that concept if you like that concept,
really
use
awesome.
it because it's fucking cool. Another concept I've seen done, and this is usually to a comedic effect, is like a motivational speaker, especially with like the bardic inspiration. Like, I believe in you. You got this. You're the best. Don't let anyone tell you you're not. You know, that kind of deal. I was like, I've seen that. That's cool. That's fun.
Definitely.
One that I use, and it's because I'm obsessed with the name of the wind, is the concept of naming. Since we're talking about like the power of words and the power of music, what if the person was a namer, even though like the mechanics for that don't exist in D&D?
Yeah.
We could just say that spells are like, basically I think, okay, so I've only played 2 bards, and I will talk about both of them in this, and I'm going to talk about Tristan Valeris, the half-elf bard that I created for a one-shot. He knew the name of the wind and the name of thunder, and basically what I did was I just picked spells that I could flavor off of that.
Yeah.
And so he would call these names, and he used a sword for his spellcasting instrument.
Nice.
And so he would blast like wind or thunder from his blade.
Cool.
And it was just a lot of fun. He was really cool.
Like a rapier or something?
No, he was a longsword.
Wow. Cool.
Longsword and shield.
Nice.
Like, he was like a swashbuckler.
Hell yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I really liked Tristan. He was really cool.
On that note, me and Jake are working on his bard being because his bard is also half elf. So we're kind of using that fae touch thing,
right?
To kind of go with that like kind of naming aspect that you're saying, because I know that's like a powerful thing in the Fae. Ever since we did the Fae episode.
It is. I like
so
that.
we're gonna kind of implement that when he's gonna like draw from like his Fae ancestry kind of to do things like that as a bard.
I like that. That's really cool. You know what? I'm a little parched. Let's take a short rest.
Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the part of the episode where we stop talking about that last thing and we start talking about something else. That's us and you. Let's start with us. No, let's start with you. Thank you guys very much for listening to the show and for making it this far in the episode. It means a lot to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys rock. And I just wanted to say this last week has been really overwhelming with the growth and the feedback we've been getting. We've been getting a lot of messages from fans talking about like how much the show helps them or how much they enjoy the show, and it's really overwhelming. We really love to hear that stuff. So thank you guys. Thank you to everyone for reaching out and letting us know. Like that makes us feel really good.
It definitely does, and we appreciate the constructive feedback that you guys have been giving too. We like to implement things into the show that you would like, and I know that definitely helps me a lot. Listening to the show actually helps me a lot too. If I'm trying to put anything into my games, I usually like to listen to one of our old episodes and freshen up on the content along with reading it in the player's handbook. It's gives me everything I need. So if you know somebody that would like the show, please tell them about it. We grow on this podcast by word of mouth with your help. So thanks.
Yes. Spreading the word is like the most helpful thing you can do for us. If you're interested in helping us, like that's all we ask. Just spread the word.
Yeah, and to help promote that, Will has been running a contest, which should now be over at the time of the listening of this podcast.
By the time this podcast airs, it will have been over last Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to announce the winners on Twitter pretty much immediately. Probably I'm going to wake up tomorrow. But by the way, we're recording this on the Monday right before it.
Tomorrow's the 4th.
So tomorrow I'm going to wake up. I'm going to roll some dice and I'm going to pull some names. And then I'm going to tweet out those names and let everyone know, like, hey, we got 3 winners. They're getting custom minis. You know why? Because they joined the contest and did what they had to do.
Yeah, man. You tweeted out that link to the show, which we really appreciate. You can find us on SoundCloud.com/TheDungeonCast. You can find us on YouTube. Just search The Dungeoncast and we should be there. Get us on any of the podcast apps. Stitcher, Podcast Addict. If you're finding us on iTunes or the podcast app on your Apple phone, please leave us a rate and subscribe. That really helps us a lot too, and we appreciate that a lot. We got anything else for these fools?
No, I think we got the rest of the episode for them.
Well, cool. It looks like this bump recorded because the last one we did not.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, let's go back to the show. Back up.
All right, we are back, and we're still talking about the bard. Okay, so let's talk about what separates the bard from some of the other magic casters out there. Their style of magic tends to be on the support side of things very heavily.
Yes.
They're capable of healing, not as well as a cleric or druid, but very effectively.
Yeah, and like a touch of healing, like just a little bit, goes a long way in 5e.
Absolutely.
Especially at the early levels.
Absolutely. A lot of their spells are in the wheelhouse of like enchantment and illusion.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. They're fighting with words. They're fighting with inspiration.
They're just saying shit to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And that's like troublesome as hell.
Yeah. They're very often their spells are about debuffing the enemies and buffing up the allies.
Right.
It's a reason why in 4th edition, they were a leader class. They were the heal support. Which isn't to say they can't blow shit up sometimes. I mean, they can sometimes cast like fire and elemental spells. Usually it's going to be along the lines of like thunder.
Yeah. Okay.
Which makes sense because
like that's an area of an effect general thing, right?
I mean, it can be.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is a lot of the element or like the type of damage some of their spells will be. Thunder is pretty common, and it makes sense because sound and thunder is sound.
Cool.
Psychic is another one, which makes sense because they're using words to fuck with the heads of their enemies.
Yeah.
So psychic, vicious mockery is their main cantrip, in which they like insult the enemy so viciously.
I like when they attack their like looks, and they're they're just like every time I DM somebody doing that, it's just like, yeah, they look at the thing you mentioned and they like shed a tear.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's like, and they take the damage.
Yeah, they take that psychic damage because
Yes.
you've attacked their soul.
Their mental confidence has crippled to the point where they've taken physical damage.
Yeah, that's just very impressive.
And like you really like, I always imagine like the bard taking this like from a role play aspect, taking the steam out of your monster a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I like that. Like the way you flavor it, really changes it up. I like that. Let's talk about colleges. Because
like how much debt I'm in?
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
Please, dear God. No, but bards, they rather than like an archetype or a circle or a domain, what they get is they get what is called their Bartok College.
I see that good school.
That good school. Okay, so the way colleges are treated really can vary depending on your dungeon master and the setting that you're in.
The cost of tuition.
Like,
books.
Is it a formal university?
Accreditation.
I kind of like this idea where it's like this university that you had to go to and you have a fucking certificate.
I'd
from
like
it.
to join
That's
your
really-
Bard College. Who are you accredited by though?
the king.
Shit, yes. Then.
And that is one way you could do it, and that's one way you could treat a college. You can also treat a college almost like a fighting style that was like passed from a master to apprentice for eons, except for it's a bardic style rather than a fighting style.
Yeah, like come study this like particular form of art with me.
Exactly. And like
I always picture them out on like the grass.
Right. Okay, sure. Why not?
Like gathered
And
around in like a half circle.
So maybe as a musician, you sought out a master musician of that Bartok College style and learned under them. That's one way of doing it. Other is like maybe you created your own style and named the college after whatever. Like you could do that too. You could technically throw that into the lore.
Right.
The point is like Bardic magic comes from a combination of hard study and natural talent to find the power in music. So like it's a little bit of the sorcerer, it's a little bit of the wizard.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, colleges.
I've looked into. I'm sorry. Let's keep talking about colleges.
Okay. Well, all I was going to say in the player's handbook, there are two colleges which we will talk about when we get to the features. They are the College of Valor and the College of Lore. But what were you going to say?
I wanted to. I like went off in my own head for a little bit there, and thought about like learning like because I know you like level up to get like the later end stuff. So you didn't like learn it in your backstory,
right?
But like, hey kids, like when you're high enough level, let me show you what you can do. And like guy turns around and casts power word kill.
Oh shit! Yeah, well, that's one thing.
I just talked that thing to death.
Yeah.
Like welcome to being a bard.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Like so that happens. Like it just gets so severe that you can just literally talk something to death. Like that's
I suppose, but that's the thing. Remember, they are casting spells.
Yeah, like magic is coming into the equation.
But I mean, I don't want to discourage flavoring it strongly the other way, where it's like they're just talking something to death. That's cool and funny. I like
Avada
that.
Kedavra.
Yeah, but there we go. Which is what power word kill basically is.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, like. I like the idea of flavoring spells around your concept. I do like that, but mechanically speaking, they're just casting spells. With magic. They're tapping into this power source.
That's a high level slot.
Yeah. So before we jump into the features, do you have any questions about bards? Any concepts? Anything you want?
Yeah, usually a class will have like the warlock has like its own special pool of like extra shit, or like superiority dice for the battle master fighter. Do bards have something like that?
Yes, they do, and we'll get into that momentarily.
Okay.
So if you don't have any other questions, let's dive into the mechanics.
Yeah, I see. My mental state seems to be flowing with the way you've lined your notes up.
Oh, that's good.
So
We've been doing this for a while, so we're finally.
Let's get into it.
All right. So the bard, much like the rogue, kind of falls into the middle of the road. You're going to need a D8 for your HP. You have access to light armor. You have a decent weapons list, but not all the weapons like a lot of the other fighting classes. And that's the thing about the bard is like the bard can just be strictly a caster, or you can kind of get in there with the melee. You won't be very effective, but I mean you will be effective.
Yeah, I mean at least you're not defenseless, and if you can't do magic for whatever reason, which is a thing.
Right. You automatically get proficiency in 3 instruments, which is really cool. But it does kind of like really marry the concept to music specifically, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it probably should be, but as a DM, I'm definitely going to say like it could be any artistic, whatever you want it to be. If you're using like some other like artistry as your bardic magic, like the ink mage. Like rather than give you instruments, why would I give you instruments? You're going to be adept with probably I'll say pencils and art
nice,
and paintbrush and
chalk and charcoal.
There we go.
Like
there we go. That
acrylics,
exactly that.
Oil paint. I'm an oil painter.
I'll give you 3 visual arts.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that. Just like three proficiencies in your art form off the bat. That's really cool. You're gonna get dexterity and charisma saves, which is a really good combination, but also shows like you're very dexterous. Charisma, you're very inspiring as you should be. You're a bard. You're a charisma caster.
You're pretty much gonna be dumping your stats into charisma,
and then dex is gonna be pretty high too, probably.
Yeah.
And then of course we talked about this already. You get to choose any 3 skills of your choice. Let's talk about the power resource that you wanted to know about. So bards have a thing called bardic inspiration.
Yeah,
it's a big part of what they do. At level 1, they get access to D6s, which they can basically hand out. They basically can they can inspire their allies, and for the next 10 minutes you get to add a D6 to the next roll that you make. And I think it's tied to, it could be like attack, a skill check, or a save. I think those are the 3.
Yeah.
Later on those dice get bigger. D6s to D8s to D10s.
That's right. They become D10s.
I think the amount that you get is tied to your charisma. So like, it's based off your mod. So if you have an 18 in charisma, you can hand out 4 bardic inspirations per long rest. I think it is. It might be short rest, but I think it's long rest.
That's fun. Like, I know Jake's been doing that, but I just was unclear on exactly what was happening. I just trust you guys.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Nobody's trying to cheat.
I'm always keeping an eye on everybody to make sure they're running things right.
Yeah, which helps me. Like, I get to focus on, like, it's a weird game that I'm running, I feel like, because, like, I'm not really, like, as a dungeon master, I'm not so in tune with the rules, but somebody at the table is, so I just get to do the story part.
That's not entirely too uncommon, because, forever DMs like myself, like, we can only DM everything for so long. Sometimes we want to play, so, like, we'll get one of our people to DM a game, and it's like, don't worry about the rules. Like, if something comes up, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
You just run the story.
Yeah, and like, I'm learning the rules very quickly as I go. I think this is the best way to learn the rules.
Oh yeah, no, you're doing great.
Everybody's got their own thing going on. So I'm like learning a little. I know about what the bard does because I run one, but the specifics, like here, I'm like, can you tell me how this works, please?
Yeah.
Like,
no problem. That's what I'm here for. So at level 2, you're gonna get a cool feature called Song of Rest. I really like this feature because it's a fun way to heal. It's not like I cast a spell and you heal. So the way it works is, like, supposedly you play a song of magic when you're taking a short rest, and everyone who can hear it can add a D6 to their hit die that they're rolling,
right?
And they heal that much extra.
Cool, that's really good. Actually,
and that die grows as you level, so D8 to D10 and whatnot, and it just makes short rests better. It just makes them more effective.
Hell yeah.
If you're running the Ink Mage, I have this concept of like, well, what do you do? Because what's your song of rest? Well, maybe you're like Bob Ross and you just like get your easel up and you just start like talking them through, teaching them how to paint, and they just like, they just feel better. Like, I love Bob Ross.
This is how I make a cloud.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck, that's a really good cloud. How did you do that? Whoa, yeah. I feel really good right now.
Bob Ross is a bard, so there it is.
Bob Ross is a bard.
So there you go, song rest.
Hell yeah.
Jack of all trades, we mentioned it. Not only is it a thing that they are, it's a thing that they get. Are you still on the Bob Ross?
I'm still laughing about Bob Ross. Oh my
god. Speaking of Bob Ross, I forgot where I was browsing on the internet, and Bob Ross has a son who also paints.
Yes, I've seen that.
And he's just as good as his dad at that show. Like, he brings him on the show sometimes.
Oh, holy crap.
And he also has a very distinctive hairstyle, much like his dad. His dad has like the fro thing going on.
He's like passing the trade.
Yeah.
He's like passing the torch.
Well, his son
the
has
Ross
like
family will entertain us for another generation.
I know,
it seems.
right? Yeah. Well, his son has this long, like 70s hippie hair.
Fuck yeah.
And he has a very nice speaking voice, and he paints very well. It was wonderful. I had a great time. It blew my mind. Anyways.
Shit, that fucking glob of paint turned into a fucking tree.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so
scalpel?
Jack of all trades. Jack of all trades.
I feel great.
Is a feature you get, I think, at level 2 or 3, and basically everything that you're not proficient in, you're half proficient in. You gain half your proficiency bonus to all skills you're not trained in.
Now, how does that work in the early game, or like with an odd number, basically? Like, what if you got a 3 or a 7, or in proficiency?
Oh, it always rounds down.
Okay.
That's generally speaking, things round down in D&D.
Right, okay.
Because to round up would make everything too fucking powerful.
Yeah.
So this is really handy at the beginning of the game, and honestly, it just gets more and more handy as you keep going because it just keeps going up. And like, while other people who aren't proficient in sleight of hand stay pretty much the same level of bad at it, like you get pretty damn good at it without even being trained in it. And then later on, you're going to get expertise. If expertise you get no matter what college you take, and I think that one works. This isn't like a for sure quote, but I think it works. Basically, you choose 2 skills and you gain double your proficiency bonus on those 2 skills.
Yes.
But they have to be skills that you're already proficient in.
Right.
Like otherwise, it gets crazy. Either way, you're going to be pretty good at anything. You're not necessarily going to be bad at anything.
No, and you're going to be. I think what you can be really great at is like the persuasion, intimidation.
Yeah, I mean, you got that high charisma.
Yeah.
You got the high charisma. And if you're using expertises in those, like, yeah, you're going to be good at it.
Those are going to be, like, if you're going to master anything, it's going to be like an intimidation roll or a persuasion roll.
Right. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the 2 colleges in the player's handbook.
Deception, I guess, too. Huh?
Yeah, deception as well.
I just fucking lie.
Yeah, I'm just a really good liar.
I'm like a bard of misinformation.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus.
I've come to tell you about the tale of shit that didn't go down.
I like that. Okay, so the College of Lore. This is considered the more powerful of the 2 colleges, and it's definitely the more spellcastery, wizardy of the colleges. The College of Lore is basically surrounds the concept that like you're all about learning more, and finding the truth and finding the legends and learning all the magics.
The exact opposite character I just made up.
Yes, absolutely. And bam, off the bat, you're getting 3 extra skills.
Yes.
Just skill monkey and a half. Yeah. You're going to get what I like to call anti-inspiration. It's cutting words. It's basically you demoralize your foe, use bardic inspiration to cause them a negative D6 to whatever it is they fucking do next.
Okay.
You're going to get extra spells. I think you get extra cantrips. I'm not actually sure on that. And eventually you're able to inspire yourself. You're able to use your bardic inspiration on yourself.
Okay, cool.
That's
really
the basics on the College of Lore. It's not my favorite of the 2. It's kind of like with the warlock, the Book of Shadows, what's that path called? There's a path, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the more brainy, wizardy, spellcastery.
It's okay. Well, this is the Bard episode.
I know, but my point is, like, that's considered the best warlock path, mechanically speaking.
Nice.
It's also my least favorite.
Okay.
Because it has the least flavor, and like the lore one's kind of like my least favorite because it's just like you're an extra bard. That's cool, but like
the assassin path, or not the assassin path, the rogue path. That's just like you are just more rogue.
Yeah, or the fighter path. It's like you're the champion. You're just a really good fighter.
Super
Although
good
I really
fighter.
do like that.
The champion path
that
is like
champion's dope.
I feel like that's tied more to like these are tied more to like the tropey storylines that we're used to hearing.
So I like the College of Valor. It boosts all your abilities in melee. So, okay, this is probably the real reason why the lore is my least favorite bard. We've already talked about this many times. I like a character that can do everything.
Yeah.
And
so if you're just standing there casting spells, that's not everything because you can swing a sword in this game.
Exactly. And the College of Valor is going to give you access to better weapons and better armor.
Right.
You're going to get an extra attack, much like a fighter does. So, like, you're going to be that much better in combat. You're going to get a feature called Battle Magic where you can, I think the way it works is you can cast a spell and then do a melee attack.
Shit, okay.
So it's like nice combos. I like that. I want to cast Fireball and then hit you in the face with a sword.
That sounds fucking rad.
Yeah. And then eventually you get to add inspiration to allies' damage and AC. And I think this is really cool. It's one of the higher level features that you get.
Okay.
So like rather than bardically inspire somebody and they add it to their attack roll, they can actually add it to their damage, which can be really good.
Shit.
Like especially like a D10, an extra D10 on top of
Yeah,
your
dude,
damage.
adding die randomly to your damage, that's like that breaks the mechanic.
Yeah. And then even better, I think, is adding it to AC. So like the dragon swipes that claw at your ally and hits. Well, you bardically inspire them. They roll an extra D10. They add that number to their AC.
Yes.
That claw don't hit no more. I like that.
Yes.
So I like the College of Valor. I like things that are more flavorful. I like things that like inspire like thinking outside the box. And I just think that's really cool.
I think it's also rare that like in my head that a traveler should not be able to use some kind of weapon. Like, why don't you at least have like something sharp on you?
Right. Yeah.
And learn a little bit about how to use it.
I mean, everyone can make a basic attack. They're just bad at it.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
Sometimes you really got to do that.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think a wizard, outside of if they're a blade singer or something, like they should be really shit at it. You know what I mean?
True.
The bard, maybe not so much. The bard, I agree with what you're saying. Should be able to fight at least a little bit because you're not a wizard.
Yeah,
like,
you're not going to only like this. Like my blade is not my magic necessarily. It is and it's not.
Right. Okay, so that's it for the features. I want to talk a little bit about like bards in pop culture and fiction. And one of the first ones that comes to mind is an old PlayStation game called A Bard's Tale, which is available on Android in the app in the App Store, and it's a really fucking amazing game in which you play this really snarky bard rogue character who's a piece of shit, but he basically has to save the world.
Okay,
and he's a character trope I like to call the brave coward.
Okay,
which have you ever seen Army of Darkness?
I haven't.
God damn it, man.
I know.
So Ash from Evil Dead is what I like to call the brave coward, where it's like they're a coward.
You
up
told me
front.
all about it.
Yeah, they're a coward up front, and they don't want to fucking do it, and they hate this, and they just want to go home. But like they have to, so they step up and they do what they gotta do.
That's
I
cool.
like that character trope. I don't know what about it. Like
it's
really
fun.
speaks
I mean,
to
like
me.
it forces you to be the person you have to be.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what it forces you to be a better man. Anyways, Bard's Tale is a really cool game, and basically in the Bard's Tale, he's a bard who, with his magic, can summon different spirits and elementals and monsters to fight for him. And he can fight too. He can get in there with a sword. So he's not like a D&D bard, but he's close enough.
Right. Okay.
Kvothe from Name of the Wind is technically a bard. He's an incredibly talented musician who does also do magic. They're just not necessarily intertwined, but he's also what I would call jack of all trades. He's very good at a lot of things, but he's actually hasn't yet become a master at any of them. Thomdril from Eye of the World. He's a really cliche bard, except for in that world, music and magic aren't intertwined. He just is a bard and musician who can also fight much like a rogue. Mercedes Lackeys has a series called The Bardic Voices. I haven't read them, but I heard they're really good, and they feature a bunch of different bard characters from book to book. Other than that, I can't really think of too many other bards in fiction that I can think of.
I really like bringing up Legend of Zelda versus D&D because Link does everything.
He does.
He's literally the jack of all trades, but the master of almost all of them.
Yeah, he's like a bard, ranger, fighter, rogue. He's all those.
And like
anything else,
he just carries the shit he needs to heal.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. He has a bag of holding,
and sometimes he does like wicked cool magic. He does like some magic with his sword and Ocarina of Time and like Majora's Mask and stuff.
So
he has like a magic bar.
So wizard as well. Yeah. So he's like a
Eldritch fighter.
He's a level 40 character.
Yeah. Basically though, I mean,
right.
Like,
yeah. No, I think I've said this before. Is like Zelda or Link is basically 4 D&D characters put into one because you can't have a party in that game, so you got to be all of them.
He's a superhero.
Yeah.
And like just does like. He just has like so many fucking cool things that like you should only be good at one of these, but he's so good at all of them.
Yeah.
It's really fun to play Link.
Yeah. That being said,
he does magic with his fucking ocarina or like whatever it is, whatever instrument you got. There's always a music element in Zelda.
Yeah, it's very common there is. Yeah. And that being said, if I was to try and build Link in D&D, I would start from the Bard and go from there. I would probably build like at least 3 levels of Bard to get that College of Valor.
Yeah.
I might take a level of fighter to get like a fighting style, help boost that, and then I'd go from there. Like that's definitely how I'd approach it. But I think at this point we are veering so far off topic where we've moved away from the Bard,
and we're building a super character.
And we're building a super character.
We're building Link.
Did you have any other questions about Bards?
About Bards? No, we covered a lot of good stuff.
All right, guys. I hope that was informative. But I think we're done, and you guys have a good one.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.